Here's what you won't be reading about if you're only looking at the front page of the New York Times and its editorial page. You won't be hearing about Russia's daylight bombing campaign in cities across Ukraine, including a children's hospital in Kyiv. You won't be hearing about Project 2025, the Republicans' fascist playbook that, despite Donald's protestations to the contrary, fully embody his plans to turn America into an autocracy in which its citizens are stripped of their rights and non-citizens are rounded up and put in internment camps. You will not hear any discussion of the unfitness of Donald Trump, the Where's Waldo of American politics, who hasn't been seen publicly in 12 days. What we will see is continuing and baseless calls for Joe Biden to drop out of the race and incessant coverage of Democratic infighting, as well as dangerous normalization of the most abnormal and insidious American in this country's history. Let's dive in. Hello, everybody, and welcome to today's episode of the Nerd Avengers. We are so happy to have you with us. I'm not really happy in general, though. Terry, if you may have heard a little bit of invective, a little vitriol in my opening. I am just things are bad enough, and to wake up every morning still with this drumbeat that just you see on the one hand, the New York Times editorial page is now dedicated to destroying the Democratic Party and democracy, and all this going, oh, who's going to be Donald's vice president? Like it's another reality show in which everything is just fine. So Tara, I wanted to start with you. One, I know you have to leave early, but also because you've been on this, and the breathtaking intellectual dishonesty of the corporate media, starting with the New York Times, is like, I don't even know what to say anymore.
It's borderline malpractice at this point. Like, I have been railing about this since February. Somebody actually reposted something I tweeted back in February when the New York Times started this shit. And I was like, okay, look, until Joe Biden demonstrates that he is incompetent to do the day-to-day job as president of the United States, everybody needs to calm the hell down. And so far, I think the country's actually in pretty good shape. And I feel your pain, Mary, because on Sunday night I was on MSNBC on Eamon's show, and I just took it to Adam Frisch, who from Colorado, who's a candidate running. He is most known for running against Lauren Boebert and losing. And so he was going on about this fantasy of just switching out Biden and how we could have a couple town halls and this like blitz primary thing. And I said, like, stop this. This is not a West Wing episode. This is not, you're fantasizing about something that just cannot happen practically. And not for nothing, but there was a primary. Voters chose President Biden, and you're disenfranchising them.
Wait, the primary doesn't count because he didn't have any serious contenders.
Right. Stop. Like,
tens of millions of people voted for the guy. They did that. They made the effort to do that. Tell them their votes don't count.
Right. And then when you have an incumbent president, when do you have a competitive primary? You almost never. That's not a thing. So all of this and the media's role in pushing this, look, fair scrutiny for the debate and for the fact that Biden has to prove himself moving forward. What is not fair at this point, that once President Biden said, I'm in this race, that's it. That's where it ends. Now we need to move on. Stop trying to make fetch happen, because it's not. Biden said he's going to stay. So that means, and we finally saw his operation kick into gear. I wanted to say to Adam Frisch, like, I'm sorry, sir, but like, unlike you, Joe Biden's actually won multiple races for 40 years. So you need to shut the hell up. But no one's listening to you. But anyway, but Biden has done some really excellent things to course correct at this point since Sunday. Starting off going to the Black church in Philadelphia with that really excellent warm reception from them, because people know, and Danielle can appreciate this as well, that the Black community is the backbone of the Democratic Party's base. And once he got the sign off from the elders, that's the signal to the rest of them. Biden's our guy. We're not leaving him.
Yeah, looking at you, Maxine Waters.
Right. And she was on last night, gave an excellent interview and made that point. But they also said, look, he's got to do exactly what he needs to do, but we're with him. We're not abandoning him. He's never abandoned us. We're not abandoning him. He's our president. The meeting with the Congressional Black Caucus, important. That letter that Biden put out yesterday morning and his impromptu call-in to Morning Joe was epic. Yep. Epic. Because he basically laid down the gauntlet. He said, here's the bottom line. All right, you're either on board or you're not. I'm not going anywhere. We're not disenfranchising the voters who voted for us and voted for our ticket. I'm in it to win it. And either you're on board or you're not. You want to challenge me in an open convention? Go for it. Let's see how that works out for you. Or we can all stay focused on defeating MAGA and making sure our democracy still exists past November. What are you going to do? And you saw how quickly most of the Democrats started to fall in line. Now, of course, you're always going to have the couple of stragglers here and there that have their own personal agendas. There's a lot of jockeying going on here. It's very House of Cards in a certain way, but it's also very Veep too. So there's a combination of all that going on here. But the stakes are so high and so real that enough is enough. The New York Times needs to cut the shit, and all of these other punditry class inside the Beltway people need to cut the shit, because the American people recognize what's going on here. And the Democrats, the regular average Democratic voters, I didn't see a collapse in support for Biden yet. It's been 2 weeks almost of full on, let's dismantle Joe Biden. And there has not been a collapse in the polls. George Bush, Barack Obama, George H.W. Bush were all further behind in the polls right now than freaking Joe Biden is. Well, yeah, he lost though. But
good point. Sorry, forget I said that.
Right now. Okay. So again, they've got to cut the shit. I'm tired of it now. It's time to unify behind the president. As long as he says that he's in, he's in. We've got 4 months to go. We're not starting from scratch. That's a fantasy.
It's a total fantasy. It's so damaging. And if anybody quotes my stupid remark, I was kidding. I was totally kidding about Jimmy Carter. He lost. He's a loser. So we're only talking about people. But like, no, he's not a. Well, he was in that race. Is what
right in that race. My point. Yes, but he did very good things.
So, but seriously, like now, it's if there is a collapse, it's going to be driven by this inability for people to move on, and it's so dangerous. And I keep hearing Gentile that. Oh, I can just refer to you as Jen because you are the only Jen among us today. That Biden's age is a huge story, but there are other things. Well, okay. First of all, that's only true if you don't know how to add 77 and 4, and if you don't understand how human aging works. So it's not a huge story. People are continuing to make it a huge story. And Jen, one of the things I find so incredibly frustrating is people who have no business, well, I shouldn't say that. Everybody can weigh in if they want, but people who have influence, but as far as I'm aware, don't have any insider insight into what's happening, keep moving the goalposts. So it almost doesn't matter what President Biden does because it's never going to be enough, and it's crazy making.
You are right. And adding to the crazy making, and let me just do a shout out because I cannot resist a Mean Girls reference. Tara, you can sit with us. And I don't know what day it is, but I will wear pink with you.
No sweatpants today, though. No sweatpants.
Okay. So I think what's crazy making is the people who are doubling down, both from, who are anti-Trumpers and the people who are just conservative operatives who are trying to play some sort of a logic game. And they're saying, oh, the Democrats who are standing by Biden, they're no different than Donald, the MAGA cult. And I want to read you this response I gave because I think it's the right one. And so Megan McArdle, conservative, said, "Feel like I'm watching a lot of center-left folks come to grips with the fact that while their party may still be more honorable than the Republicans who caved to Trump, the gap isn't as big as they believed up until the debate." BS. I call BS. And here was my response. False equivalency. Donald is a selfish felon, adjudicated fraudster and sexual assaulter who promises to be a dictator and try to kill his VP. Yeah. That's why he needs a new one. Whereas Joe Biden is a decent man who is aging, who created jobs and improved the economy, who promises to continue his agenda with his VP. Facts matter.
Try to kill her.
Yes.
Facts matter. This idea, if you stand, like this idea that, and I'm really frustrated with some of my friends who are like, oh, that's right. I thought we weren't like Maoist and we just didn't just bow down to our dear leader. No, we are supporting our platform. Stop with there is no equivalent to supporting Donald Trump. Standing by Joe Biden, who, by the way, we elected in the primary, is what democracy is about. And we do not hand our votes over to a small little coven of wealthy donors to pick our candidate.
And Jen, really quick point here, and that I just want to interject, and then have you can keep going. In America, we elect a president for 8 years, right? We choose that. What I mean is, when we elect somebody, we assume that they're going to be in office for 8 years. We want that person to be, and that person's vice president to be in office for 8 years. The power of the incumbency is enormous. The idea of throwing that away for some reality show fantasy. And believe me, I'm sure like all of you, I have seen some things that will just make your toes curl. They're so insane. And of course, most of them do something really fascinating. The word misogynoir comes to mind. They hop right over Vice President Harris. It's insulting. It's despicable. And I'm going to keep saying this. It's going to become a self-fulfilling prophecy. We're not telling people to shut up because we don't believe in a diversity of opinions. We're asking people to stop because they are undermining our efforts to save American democracy. That's not belonging to a cult. That is having the right thing in mind and weighing very carefully what our options are. You can't just say Biden has to step down and be like, yeah, well, open convention, I guess. That's so irresponsible and dangerous. It will destroy the whole party and the country.
Yes, and this is the last thing I'll say about this, because I know I want others to speak, but it's always compared to what? None of us have a crystal ball, but a lot of us who have ever worked inside of a business operation or any kind of operation, and I know several of us on this call understand how processes work. And we have, under 120 days until the election. And this idea that, Biden should either be pushed aside or step down, and that suddenly that will solve all of our problems, ignores something really important, which is this. The K-Hive, the Kamala supporters, and people like me don't want that to happen because we know, as Mary mentioned, the knives are already out for Vice Harris right now. The point is this. Joe Biden is capable of being president. In fact, he will be in office until January 20th. That's how it works.
And how do we know he's capable? Because he's doing the job right now.
Right. And so this will happen. And if there is a problem, if he cannot serve his second term in full, that's why we have a vice president. This is not this folks who are like, we want to defeat Donald Trump. Great. But have you thought about what this process would look like if suddenly we had a free-for-all food fight? That is what Donald Trump and the Republicans want. Right now.
One other just quick thing, Jen.
Yeah, go ahead.
And then I know Danielle.
I'm done,
also
and then
jumped
I want to
in.
hear from others, like Danielle, who has to leave.
Just a couple quick things. One, the other thing that people are not paying attention to is the fact that the Republicans are extremely organized and motivated from a legal perspective. They've already talked about telegraphing that they will challenge ballot access and turn this into a legal free-for-all if they try to switch anybody on the ballot. That's something that they're underestimating, number one, with the chaos that'll cause. Number two, as I mentioned the other night, the Democrats still had 700 plus uncommitted delegates before the debate debacle. So they weren't unified even going into the convention before that, because the Democrats, have a whole lot of difference, a big tent. So you think that they're just going to come and unify after all of this, and all the different factions are going to want to come in and have this person, their person, there won't be hurt feelings. They're just going to magically align? No. And then the third thing is, the polls that are coming out now are again, the way the media is handling it. I see this Wisconsin poll that shows this AARP poll that shows Biden down by 6. I want everyone to understand something. That poll was run by Tony Fabrizio, who is Trump's pollster. Okay, that's Trump's pollster. That is different than the CBS poll, which is not by Trump's pollster, that showed Biden up in Wisconsin right after the campaign. So again, the media is complicit in this bullshit, and we have to keep putting out the facts and balancing this out, because enough is enough.
Yeah, Brian, I want to get to you because I'm very curious to hear your take on the way in which the White House press corps has been totally covering itself in glory. But Danielle's got to leave a little early, so I'll give you extra time in a bit. So Danielle, all I want to hear from anybody who is not, who's saying Biden needs to step down is, if he doesn't, will you support him? That's all I want to hear. Honestly.
Yeah, I'm going to echo everything that Tara's saying, Jen's saying, you're saying, which is that I am tired. I'm so tired of the media. I honestly am. I think that mainstream media, like, when I saw the list that came out of all of the people who are CEOs of these major outlets that are all Trump donors and supporters, it's the same shit that I dealt with when I was at SiriusXM, which was revealing what was public knowledge, that the SiriusXM, CEO was a major Trump donor. Like, folks have to understand, like, exactly what Tara just said with regard to the polls and who is in charge of those polls. Like, who is in these C-suites that are saying this narrative has to persist? Guys, tell me the last time that we were on the same fucking news cycle for over a week about the same topic. Right. I cannot remember last time. Tell me.
The emails.
Oh, yes, that's right. It was the emails, and look where that got us. And so I feel that right now, what I want to see from Democrats across the board is a circling of the wagons. The president said he is not leaving the race. Right. And so the way that Republicans are able to circle the wagons and defend a convicted felon and alleged rapist, I would like for our party to do the same for a man that is old. Right. Like, and stop looking for these, stop looking for the ways in which to bring this administration down.
And Danielle, I mean, we've talked about this too. One way to solve that problem is to say, if you believe this election is about saving democracy from fascism, aren't you going to vote for the party that represents democracy? Right? It should be that simple. It doesn't. Any one of us could be president. I mean, not that any one of us should be, but you know what I'm saying. Like, there are many qualified people. We have one in office already, and a huge team of people supporting him, right? Just democracy.
Just like that to me, again, people don't understand how democracy works. Like the president has teams and teams and teams of people. This administration is teams and teams and teams of people. I am not saying that the debate was not a disaster. It was. And his team, if they had any inclination that this was not going to be the State of the Union performance that he did, then they should have fucking pulled it. Right? And said that the man had COVID and kept it moving, and then reminded people, remember when Donald Trump had COVID and didn't give a fuck and infected everybody in that theater? Well, we're not going to take that risk, right? Done. Be over with. and, move on to September. But the fact is that we are here. And what I want people to see is what just happened in France, what happened in the UK, and France in particular deciding that, you know what, we need to unite as a left-wing progressive coalition, because Marine Le Pen is an existential threat to who we are as a country. And that's exactly what they did, right? And so here we are, where the media is finally, in some respect, discussing the existential threat that is Project 2025. The only thing that people should be caring about right now is the fact that we will have a national abortion ban, the fact that there will be a ban on no-fault divorce, the fact that they will gut the Department of Education and all federal agencies and cut Social Security and cut Medicare. Like, these are the things that people need to focus on. I don't need to be excited about Joe Biden. I need to be excited about freedom and being able to continue with that.
Yeah, absolutely. And Brian, the Washington Press Corps, among all of corporate media, are making sure that so many people are focused away from the things that, most of which Danielle mentioned, and which we're going to talk about as we go through the show and for the rest of the time we have before the election. Project 2025, the GOP platform, which just send chills down your spine. The fate of NATO hanging in the balance, what it means not just for Ukraine, but for the future of liberal democracy. The embrace of Putin by Modi, Xi, and Kim Jong-un, and Donald Trump, and what the impact on Donald's trials, and allowing the American people to know who this person really is, and on his sentencing in New York, because of the Supreme Court deciding to crown him an emperor. Like, these are the things we really need to be talking about. So what is up with the White House press corps? That, what I've seen in the last few days has just been an astonishing level of incompetence and disrespect. You've seen it firsthand. What is happening?
Well,
Is it just like groupthink? Is it just like, well, yeah,
it's
kind of goes
deaf ears. We think we're part of the crowd, and we want to be part of the in crowd, baby, and we don't know how to do our job. But that's the problem of the White House press corps for many years, because of consolidation in the media. I'd like to go back for a second to a few things that were said, and then get to the media at the end. I want to start with, I was reading my Cicero's orations, and that's how damn nerdy I am. So there's, at the time, the last great emperor of Rome, Marcus Aurelius, before the fall of the Roman Empire, was being criticized for his age. And Cicero said of him, who is superior to him in nobleness, or in honesty, or in zeal for virtuous studies, or in purity of life, or in any description whatever of excellence. So if you apply that to today's, and he was considered an old man at the time, and he was close to 60. That
was really old back then.
Yeah. If you apply that to today's situation, it holds. The analogy holds. The comparison between the two aren't you can use the term false equivalence, but I use the term bullshit, because it's just bullshit. And it's, critics say that, he's sounding like Donald Trump now, because he says, if you want to challenge me at the, in the convention, challenge me. No, Donald Trump affects the language of a leader and tries to usurp that language.
And now, just really quickly, Brian, just think about the insanity of that, right? He's like, he won the primary.
Let's talk about, that's the other thing. You're saying that challenge him. You
had your chance.
Tara, I think you talked about it as well. The primaries, it's already been chosen. Unless he decides to give up his delegates, go blow it out your ass. Excuse me. You can't challenge him.
Pretty much.
His.
And the hundreds of millions of dollars.
What I hear from the Democrats, it's like they don't even understand their own rules. For the love of God, it's already been decided. Biden is there. You're either behind your candidate or not.
And people start voting in September now, actually.
Yes.
Ballots start going out for early voting in freaking
here's
September.
what we have. Here's what you have. he won, and they complain, well, he didn't have any competition. Well, in 1980, you had competition with Ted Kennedy, and Jimmy Carter said, if he gets in the race, I'll kick his ass. It tore the Democrats apart, and that gave us the bullshit artist Ronald Reagan, who set us on this path that we're on now. How low can you go? And if you're going to take a look at anything else, look at the chaos of the 68 Democratic Convention. That's what we're headed for in Chicago again. It's what every time they go to Chicago. In '96, they went to Chicago when we had to dance the Macarena with Al Gore. Oh. But it's
that was better than that was better than when Bob Dole, our candidate, fell off the damn stage. So
that's true. Or when Tom Steyer did back it up, that was pretty embarrassing.
It's just surprising to me that we don't understand the process.
And I want to give another.
And as far as the media, wait a minute, to finish up, we are the media. All right, this is media. What I consider corporate media has long ago sold its soul, and simply for money. And if you can't get over that, if you can't move on from that, then you have a problem.
You got muted. Hang on one second. I don't know. Hang on one second, Brian. I just want to say two things really quickly before you pivot. One, in terms of telling people that they don't have a right to their own opinion. Again, I just want to say that if anybody came on the show and disagreed with us and said that Biden needs to step down, okay, but you need to show your work. You cannot just sling mud and not explain exactly, one, why, and two, what reasonable thing you're going to do instead. There's another example. Paul Wellstone was an incredibly popular senator in, I'm going to get this wrong, Wisconsin?
Minnesota.
Thank you. I knew it was one of those. Sorry. I'm a Northeast snob.
All right. He sadly died in a plane crash.
He tragically died. It was right before the election. And, he would have won in a landslide. So he was replaced with another very, very popular politician who had been vice president from Minnesota, Walter Mondale. Mondale lost to a Republican everybody hated. Incumbency is the most important asset any candidate can have. Only one person in this election has the benefit of incumbency. Okay, go ahead, Brian.
Well, we don't report. Look, and to get to the other point about the media, you can't always shoot the messenger. We don't cover news real well, but I would also say, and I have spoken to the Biden administration about this since day one. A lot of this would go away if just once every 6 weeks he'd walk out to the White House press briefing room for a half hour, take a couple of questions, and then make a joke, like, "Hey guys, I'd love to stay longer. Got to go take my nap. I'm an old man," and leave. I mean, that would, because what the White House press craves is attention. And to some respect, they deserve it because it's a reflection. It allows people who wouldn't normally see the president, who don't get a chance to see him. That being said,
they may have to do that now, Brian. We can't relitigate the past, but they're going to have to put it out there more.
That being said, that being said, going forward, the best path for him, I do like the idea of him sitting down and doing interviews. He's going to do a press conference on Thursday after NATO. He needs to be out in the public as much as possible. But his biggest problem with the press is that we're morons, and the people that are on his communication staff don't understand that you can't just dictate. You need to go down there in the press briefing room on occasion, not just the president. I mean, Donald Trump's people did it. Obama's people were great at it. They would walk down and into our offices and talk to us on occasion, making the people who want to feel like they're part of the crowd feel like they're part of the crowd instead of dictating to them. That helps avoid a lot of the problems. It's just a matter of politics. Now,
they also have to do one other thing, Brian. They have to the Biden camp has to recapture the narrative. Because if you notice what happened in the last 48 hours, 24 hours, at least on MSNBC, the conversation has shifted to Project 2025 because that is a big problem for the Trump folks now that it's getting attention. And when you have celebrities like Taraji P. Henson coming out and making the statement she did, I mean, my husband's cousin's 15-year-old Black female teenager was tweeting about, well, I guess TikToking, they don't tweet anymore, was TikToking about Project 2025, 15-year-old Black woman, okay? That's because of the power of people knowing what's going on and spreading the word to the regular folks, right? The people, the everyday folks. That's how it works. And since then, I mean, for us at Seneca Project, we put out an ad called Pay Attention. The pay attention came from my grandfather, who was a police officer and used to always tell me, Schnookums, pay attention. So I felt an homage to him. But we were saying, look, we took Taraji's words. Look, Project 2025 is not a game. Look it up. Pay attention, people. And we, of course, because you know at Seneca, we focus on women. What this will do to women is insane. What the platform for the Republicans next week during the convention, pay attention, people. They're trying to hide behind moderation.
Yeah,
There's no such thing.
That's
There's
another
no
reason.
And they're lying.
Shining a light on it. That's right. They're lying, and we have to keep calling them out for it. And thank God MSNBC at least did the right thing yesterday and started to shift the focus and put it on what matters, which is Project 2025. Biden said he's staying in enough now. Project 2025. And look at what's happening. People are finally waking up.
And we have 4 months to hammer that in. And we also, as I said at the beginning, we can't lose sight of the broader implications. I'm going to show you guys three pictures. That's Xi of China and Vladimir Putin. Vladimir Putin and Kim Jong-un of North Korea. Modi of India hugging Vladimir Putin as if his life depended on it. Now, you'll notice in this picture and this picture, they're toasting each other, but nobody's drinking because they're probably worried that the other guy poisoned their wine, okay? A fourth picture I could have included would have been of Donald Trump and Vladimir Putin, but instead of toasting each other, Donald would have been on his knees wearing a leash that Putin had put around his neck. So we are already seeing uncertainty. In NATO is already preparing for the horrible potential for another Trump administration. Our allies are deeply worried. And the longer this goes on, the less they'll trust us, even if Biden wins. Like we are weakening an alliance that is so incredibly important to the future, not just of this country, but of a world in which freedom is still something that exists. So can you imagine, Tara? Donald gets in and the three most populous countries on the planet are autocratic dictatorships, plus North Korea, which will probably be allowed to have nuclear weapons. You're muted. Hang on a sec. Hold on.
Oh,
I don't know why you got muted, but you're not anymore.
Okay. Yes. And North Korea has been working on nuclear weapons. We have no idea how far along they are. This is something that people forget. What happens on the foreign policy stage internationally is most impacted by the president of the United States. A lot of the domestic policy stuff, to Jen's point and to Danielle's point, was that there's teams of people, there's layers, right? The president isn't a king yet where he just dictates certain things. There's a Congress, there's a Senate, there's things that have to happen here. Foreign policy is one of the few things that the president of the United States has unilateral control over, representing us overseas and developing those relationships and making sure we are allied with NATO and the good countries of democracy. Donald Trump wants to destroy all of that. He has fantasy like wet dreams about his love affairs with Putin and Kim Jong-un. Like this is a like people aren't understanding this. Him wanting to pull us out of NATO and letting Putin run wild over Europe would lead to World War III. And then what happens to us?
We're already in World War III.
Well,
we're already in it.
Proverbially in some ways, yes. But I'm talking like a kinetic shooting hot war. So like this is something that I don't think gets enough attention. Ruth Ben-Ghiat, she's an advisor like you, Mary, for us in Seneca. She has been on fire lately, sounding the warning shots about what the authoritarians like Trump tend to do. And one of the things is their goal is to execute things that others can't imagine. right? It's the unthinkable. They sit there and they stew on ways to execute their fevered dreams. So that's what we need to realize we're facing. That's what, especially for women, we need to realize that our lives are on the line and continue to pay attention and sound the alarm. And on that, I've got to go. Hope everybody checks out our new ad on Project 2025 at senecaproject.us. Love you guys. Gotta go.
Thanks, Tara. If we can get that ad up, we'll show it before the show ends.
I appreciate that.
No
Bye,
problem. Bye. So if anybody's listening, if we could get the Seneca Project ad up, that would be great to see. Okay, so I definitely want to shift gears to Project 2025 and the GOP platform. So first, I'm going to play a clip that honestly any of us could have made, but it's made already. So why reinvent the wheel? And just to set up this conversation.
I remember hearing a couple of weeks ago that Putin met with North Korea's leader to invite North Korea to what is a consortium of authoritarian governments led by Russia with the goal of turning the whole globe into authoritarian rules and to take down democracies worldwide. Putin has been meeting with other countries to invite them, and they have already said yes. And these are countries that have strong militaries, authoritarian governments. They're countries where the patriarchy rules. Women do not have power. Being LGBTQ is a crime, where all of the wealth is hoarded at the very top, controlled by the very top, and their citizens are nothing more than a means of production. And they're all controlled, many of them, through various types of religions. But they want this to spread. And what bigger country to take down than the largest democracy on the planet, and through Donald Trump? And you only need to look at how it's already happening. To take down a democracy, you need to weaken the governmental systems and agencies and checks and balances.
Thank you, Supreme
Those
Court.
cannot exist in authoritarian rule. You need a whole system to replace the democracy. Project 2025, the evangelical Christian nationalists provide all of it, the entire leadership manual in getting that done. You need to convince at least half of America that we don't live in a democracy. You need to have mouthpieces there to keep us so focused on anything but what's happening. The Marjorie Taylor Greens, the Lauren Boeberts, you name it. The list goes on and on. Distractions. Then you have Donald Trump, who's all but laying it out. He wants to be a dictator. He wants to have a military tribunal. Every single one of these countries have military tribunals. All of it. All of it has been laid out. You have Donald Trump, who's praising all of these leaders. You even have his daughter and son-in-law receiving almost $3 billion from one of the countries that are a part of this, Saudi Arabia.
Okay, so I mean, I personally would say all of that. I personally would say all of that with a little bit more energy and sense of urgency. But it's all true. It's all true. I mean, this is a clip from Tim Pool, fascist, Donald adjacent fascist. It's been removed because they know how damaging this stuff is to them. I'm going to play this, and then Jen, I'm going to go to you, and just remind everybody that this is not theoretical at all. So let me quickly play this and then Jen, I'll go to you.
Hey, did you see the note, Mary?
I did indeed.
Yep.
Should Democrats be in jail? No question. When Donald Trump gets elected, should he start locking them up? No question. Should there be lists of Democrats that need to go to jail? 100%. And the reason for that is they've committed crimes. We need to make sure that when Donald Trump wins, we've got an attorney general, a deputy attorney general, a head of the CIA and the FBI. Kash Patel would be fantastic. We can have attorney general. There's some names floating around. And then they can start having their investigators and the feds issuing subpoenas, pulling up evidence, and with real evidence, bring them to judges for warrants. Then these people can spend three years of their lives fighting tooth and nail for the crime against the government for crimes they committed, and we can prove.
Yeah.
And the reason why we put them on trial is that we can show the whole world we will uncover what you've done. We will make sure everyone knows, and you will be held accountable for it.
Not just jail, they should get the death penalty. You know, we actually used to have the punishment for treason in this country.
Yeah, nothing to worry about, folks. And Jen, that to me is a reminder of something nobody seems to be talking about. Yes, Project 2025 is the most important thing. The GOP platform, which is full of lies that need to be debunked, is definitely a huge topic that needs to be covered incessantly between now and the election. But we seem to forget, just as we do with Biden, it's not just about Donald Trump. It's about the dregs of the earth, the most vicious, fascistic monsters he is going to put in places of power. Kash Flippin Patel, Stephen Miller, these are the worst of the worst. And if you think that these small, cruel, pathetic little men don't have it in mind to punish anybody who goes up against them, who punishes anybody who stands in their way, you are not paying attention. And not only that, Jen, you're not listening to what they're actually telling you.
Yeah, I mean, they're telling us, and let me just say a thing about Tim Pool in a moment. They're telling us out loud that they want to model themselves, which we know, after other authoritarian strongman regimes, the same people who we saw Vladimir Putin embracing, who go out and round up their political enemies and commit and basically lock them up and murder them. I mean, Laura Loomer, who is a joke, separate topic, is a dangerous joke. And as Tim Pool, just to give some context, he is someone who I used to admire because back in the day of the 2008 financial crisis and Occupy Wall Street, he was one of these people who I thought was, speaking truth to power, who was a good kind of populist, who cared about people being hurt and losing their homes, sort of like a Matt Taibbi type. And then something really turned where they have now aligned themselves with fascism.
That
What?
You make more money in this country if you work for the bad guys.
Yes, and
It's
this makes,
just
and he
true.
makes a ton of money podcasting, and he's sort of like the Alex Jones of the bro dirtbag left. And they're a real faction, right? They're the people who want to support people like RFK Jr., and they are just driving a wedge, and, they're dangerous. And the fact that he took down the video is because that's taking the mask off. And I'm glad that people see this. This is what Donald Trump, through Project 2025, as well as the platform the Republicans approved yesterday, promises. It's going to be what they want is bloody revenge and xenophobic, rounding up of millions of people, putting them in concentration camps and sending them out of the country. And this is frightening. It's not just about immigrants. It's about people like us who have spoken out against Donald Trump. And I would be lying to you if I didn't say I was scared, but I'm not, my it's a cliche, but I believe, don't be a worrier, be a warrior.
Yeah, we've had a conversation about cliches before, so I'm just going to pretend I didn't hear that.
Take that out in post, okay?
Let's all be warriors. I think it's fair to be worried. It's totally fair to be worried, but that shouldn't be an impediment to our fighting tooth and nail. And You know, one of the things that I just find so dispiriting is that no lessons seem to have been learned. You know, we're the especially the New York Times, but the media in general, the corporate media in general, are going after a guy. And again, this is true of the New York Times in particular, because he didn't think that the best use of his time was sitting down for an interview with them, right? I mean, Donald has called them fake news, and he's threatened reporters and journalists. I mean, it's just like there's no comparison. And once again, it's as if they're starting from a totally blank slate, and they've just been introduced to this candidate, Donald Trump, and there's just no information to tell them who he is or what he's going to do. We know the man projects. We know that every lie he tells about his competition is a truth he's telling about himself. And I just want to give you a little taste of what that means, or sorry, what that looks like, so that we can help corporate media translate this very dangerous political figure who has been a presence in American culture for decades, 5 decades now. Catch up. Here we go.
No wars. I mean, I had no wars. We're heading into World War III, in my opinion, with this man semi-running things, because he's not running things. The people that surround the Oval Office, the people that surround the Resolute desk, the beautiful Resolute desk, they're really running things in Washington, I suspect, and it's very bad. And you know, he got them into the warfare and lawfare, many different terms you can use, but basically going after your political opponent, using the Justice Department, using local DAs, using local attorney generals, going after your political opponent. Nobody's ever seen anything like that. And you know, there are those. I just read an article that it's been a positive for me, but it's not a positive. It's very unfair. It's fighting an unfair battle. But he's the one that got us into that. And all these lawsuits you see and everything else, that's all Biden inspired, meaning Biden people inspired. And it's very sad. I think it's a very sad time for our country. We're not respected anywhere in the world. He's not respected. And our country is in very serious trouble. And I'll tell you what, if we're not careful, we're going to be right in the middle of World War III, and that will be a war like nobody's seen before because of the weaponry. The weaponry is a whole lot different than 2 army tanks going up against each other. This is a whole different world, and we don't have somebody that can properly represent us. There's no question about that.
Oy vey. Okay, so basically we have lie, inadvertent truth, lie, grievance, stock phrase, lie, inadvertent truth, stock phrase, lie. I mean, it's sort of like Mad Libs with a psychopath. But okay, so
That's one way to put it. Yes.
One inadvertent truth is that a lot of people are running things. Yeah, that's how it works. The only reason you don't know that, Donald, is because you were taking too much executive time or playing golf every freaking day. So that's one inadvertent truth he told. Another inadvertent truth he told is that, yes, this country is in very serious trouble because somebody as unfit, incompetent, cruel, and insane as you is allowed to run for the presidency as if it is just some friggin' reality show. And I mean, the lies are obvious. I'm going to leave aside the grievances and the stock phrases, but you know that Biden's prosecuting him. Although I do think there was a nonsensical thing. What, lawfare and warfare? Like, what is he even talking about? He doesn't know what he's talking about. So Jen, like, for this to be an interview that gets zero coverage, zero pushback, zero fact checking, zero context, this is what we're up against.
So I'm going to do a little Pollyanna thing because this is really hard, and we're up against this. But what's good is, let me just point this out. People like Tim Pool, you don't see him on CNN or MSNBC or Fox News or any of these things. He has a huge following on YouTube. We have just launched Mary Trump Media. And people like us and the Midas Brothers and the Mueller She Wrote Network are growing to do for people who care about democracy what these very dangerous people who are wanting to incite violence, wanting to, live out this very retributive Trump agenda where it's like Putin, where there's this oligarchy of criminals that report up to, this kind of king-like figure. We don't have to have that in America. We can fight back, but the most important thing is for you all, and this is not, I know this seems like a shameful pitch, but I mean this in my heart. Please, if you're watching.
Shameless.
No.
Not
Please
shameful pitch?
follow us. It doesn't cost anything. Please, it's called subscribe. Please subscribe to Mary Trump Media. Please encourage your friends to do this. We have grown very rapidly. I'm impressed with how many followers we have, subscribers we have now. It's important. We are going to, if you like what you hear here, we're going to bring more of this. And, when I say I'm scared, I want to pivot to a more positive thing, which is I've always understood my own, and you probably, I hope will, your own mortality. Whatever you think happens after, or nothing or something, we are only on this earth for a finite period of time. And I don't intend to use my time here to allow America, a country that has had democracy or the promise of democracy built into our DNA, who has been improving this nation, spreading democracy. I want my time on this planet to be continuing that tradition, to fight off what is these criminal oligarchy fascist states. We don't want that for America. I want to deal with climate change. This is what I care about. Equality, freedom, 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 freedom. And it is doing this work. It is taking the risk that matters. And I hope you all think about that too. This isn't about us. This is about our children, our grandchildren. And it's not just about America. It is about the entire world. And I want to point to the top thing, the number one thing on what was approved yesterday as the Republican platform, which is just a list of grievances and anger. The very first thing is mass deportations.
Let me just put this up so people can see it, because it's quite something.
Okay,
and most of it's lies, but the things they tell the truth about are pretty shocking.
Okay, I'm seeing this. It's now changed from what I said. Defeat inflation and quickly bring down all prices. Okay, are they going to order corporations to lower their prices? I doubt it, but that would be good in enforcing the antitrust laws. But this part, seal the border and stop the migrant invasion. That is unconstitutional for people seeking asylum. Secondly, Donald Trump has never been able to build the wall. And thirdly, the Democrats had a plan. Biden had a plan that the Republicans rejected. This part about mass deportations, I'm not seeing it. Where is this? It's on the list here, and it's probably there's 20 points here.
Okay. Well, we know they're going to do it. They
said it's on the list. It's on the
it's
second
also
half.
It's part of Project 2025.
Right, but it's on the second half of the list. And what people are talking about here is, this affects our friends, our family, some of us here who are immigrants and who are not documented. But even if it doesn't affect you personally, even if you think you live in a bubble, what this means is how they're going to do this. How will they do it? Police and tanks on the streets, pulling people out of their homes. Have you thought about what that would look like? And if you think that I'm being like emotional or hysterical, think again. We are the same people who warned that Donald Trump would appoint justices who would take away Roe versus Wade. And they did. Do you remember? Do you remember when children, babies were rounded up and put in detention camps near the border? Do you remember when that happened? Donald Trump has done it before, and he'll do it with a vengeance. He's been being advised by xenophobic immigrant hater Stephen Miller.
And
this
they're not going to stop with immigrants. They're going to come for the LGBTQ plus community. They're going to come from Democrats.
Right.
I'm not kidding. Like this is, and not to be self-aggrandizing, but we have been warning people for a long time, all of us here, separately and here collectively. We called the 2022 midterms. We said there was not going to be a red tsunami. We called, as Jen said, what the Supreme Court was going to do if Donald Trump had the ability to appoint 2 or 3 justices. We were right. I don't know about everybody else, but I started using the fascism word in 2017. Of course, I was saying it to myself in the privacy of my own living room, but still, we've been on top of this stuff. And I just, to Jen's earlier point, we want to have an opportunity to be in the fight of making democracy better. We don't always want to be protecting it from fascism. We did that in 2020. We snatched democracy from the jaws of autocracy. Now we have to snatch it from the jaws of fascism. That is not the way to make a better world for ourselves and our children. So, we need to go big, and that's it. Like, there's no alternative here. So, Jen, I'm going to go into in other news, and then we'll wrap up. But perhaps you remember Laura Loomer, who made a brief appearance at the end of that Tim Pool clip.
The one who called on basically executing people that she thinks committed treason.
Yes, she's very sane and well-adjusted. Here we go. This guys. This is how you fight, or at least it's one way.
What she's saying, I can't understand her. What?
The election. That is why
What's she?
censoring and shadow banning.
How about it in? 12 and a half, 15, 7 and a half, $20, 2 and a half, 5, 7 and a half, 30. Hit $30 down here, 2 and a half, 5, 35, 7 and a half, 40. Hit $40, 2 and a half, 5, 45, 7 and a half, 50. Hit $50 down here, 2 and a half.
Officer, will you escort this young lady out, please?
Hit 2 and a half now, 5, 65, 7 and a half, 70. Up 2 and a half now, 5, 75, 7 and a half, $80 to 5, 85, 90. Hit $100 and 10, 10, 10 and a quarter, 1 and a quarter, 1 and a half, to divide to 2, 2 and a quarter. Hit 2 and a half, to divide 3, able to bomb 300. Hit 3 and a quarter. Cut 3 and a quarter now, half, 3 and a half, to divide 400. Hit but a 4, 4 and a quarter, 4 and a half. We're selling the cell phone there, 4 and a quarter, 4 and a half. Hit 4 and a half, 475, 505, 5 and a quarter, 5 and a half. I yield back.
That's how it's done. I want to learn how to run an auction now. No, I don't. I could never do that. But yeah, I thought we had the clip with the subtitles, but we didn't. So basically, that was the awful Laura Loomer who wants to execute everybody, who doesn't agree with everything she thinks, and her thoughts and beliefs are demented. She was basically, I don't know why she was there, but just saying that, the election was stolen and conservatives are being shadow banned, and that wonderful man just totally shut her down.
I have to point out, because that guy, the rep, so this is been around for a little bit, but it comes back now because it's a classic. It's How to Shut Them Down. But the guy who was doing the auction talk is from Missouri. His name is, you probably saw his name tag, it's Billy Long, but he's a Republican. Just, he does not want this nonsense. I think it was probably hearing about, I don't know, net neutrality. Who knows what she was doing? But with her pink selfie stick, lady, get out of there. You're a joke.
Yeah, and just the laughter at the end was just a wonderful, wonderful thing to hear. So Jen recommended checking out Judd Legum's list of Judd Legum runs Popular Information, a list of things in Project 2025.
Then can I just say what it is? It's like he tweeted, people have been tweeting it out. It's like a chart with the name of everyone who authored a section of Project 2025 and the role that they played or their connection to Donald Trump. And it's important, Mary, because It links Donald, who is trying to disavow. Sorry. Yeah, I was going to hand it back to you.
I failed the surprise quiz.
But it links Donald is trying to have it both ways, which he always does. Like, oh, sure, I'll sit down and talk to Robert Mueller. Oh, sure, I'll show my tax returns, or never heard of him, right?
Well, this one's worse. He's like, I have no idea what's in Project 2025, but I don't agree with most of it. Well, then you probably know what's in it. And also you're a liar, because as Jen just pointed out, tons of people who were in his administration or who were in his inner circle authored some of the pieces in Project 2025. We're actually putting together a special report on Project 2025 because, there are a lot of good lists out there and infographics out there. However, I think it is important to do a deeper dive just to show not just what they're saying they're going to do, but just how comprehensive this plan is. Like, they're ready to go. It's not like the Republican platform, which is, we're going to have the greatest economy ever. First of all, they won't. It's we're going to put immigrants in internment camps, and here's how. So we really need to go into that in as much detail as we can. So we know that this is not some pipe dream that that they've come up with. This is actually something that is ready to go day one. They know exactly what they're doing, and they're taking advantage of the vacuum being created by the corporate media to do it without any pushback or scrutiny. There's a reason we haven't heard or seen from Donald, or we haven't seen him in 12 days, because he can get away with it. He can get away with disappearing, unlike Joe Biden, who has to show up every single day to appease people who should be supporting him. I mean, it's quite something. We were not able to get the Seneca Project ad up, so we'll play it next time. But you can also just check it out on their website. I don't know what today is.
Today is Tuesday all day long.
Thank you so much. So tomorrow is Wednesday, I've heard. So every weekday at 8 a.m. we have the Fabulous Morning Jen, which just gets better all the time. Thursday at noon Eastern, we will have our next episode of The Nerds. And tomorrow night at 7 p.m., America's Show will be in its new time slot. So that's something to look forward to. You got to check it out. And Friday, we are debuting Democracy-ish with co-hosts. Yes, very excited about that too. Danielle Moody and Waj Ali. That's going to be Friday at 4 p.m.
And don't forget tomorrow's Legal Nerds.
I did forget tomorrow's legal. See, we just have too much content. I can't keep it in my head.
Just stay tuned in to us all the time, or if you subscribe, you'll get notices when you'll be alerted.
But 2 p.m. Eastern tomorrow, Legal Nerds. I believe it's going to be Jen and co-host Daniel. I got his name.
It's Uhlfelder, and we have a special guest, John Bonifaz, who is the president of Free Speech for People. They are a advocacy organization that tried to keep Donald Trump off the ballot in many states, and they're up to something new. We might have breaking news, but I can't tell you what it is.
All right, that's very exciting. So let's look forward to all of that. And thank you all so much, as always, for being here with us. Tough times, but it's always better to be in it together. And we really do appreciate your watching, and your comments are amazing. And, we are growing, and it's because of all of you. So thank you for that. And thank you to Tara Setmeyer, Danielle Moody, Brian Karam, Jen Taub. We will see you here tomorrow for Morning Jen at 8. Legal Nerds at 2, The Nerds Thursday at noon. In the meantime, please stay safe and be kind.